Alright, here we go again. Um, Doing another D&D campaign lore video. It's been a hot minute, like, I want to say 3 or 4 months since our last D&D session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 2-part video. This first video is just everything before the campaign. So, from session 1, everything before session 1, all the way up to the beginning of time, I guess, or the beginning, as far back as my imagination has been willing to go. Then I'm going to make a second video that just recaps the entirety of the campaign. It's going to be as much detail as possible, hopefully by splitting it up into 2 videos. I can be more detailed into different things, and that way stuff doesn't blend together as much, because there's a lot of overlap between history and just how the whole campaign is done. Also, I got this little map right here I drew on a battle mat. This Rifle Haven. I won't need it for a few minutes, but I thought it'd be handy to, point to some spots. I don't know. I just thought it'd be a cool little visual aid, since all of you are very visual people, which makes my job a little harder, but also more fun, so it kind of evens out. Let's start, let's just get into it. So, once again, like I said in the last video that I made, I just want to clarify the dating system that I have for this whole timeline. So there's 3 separate timelines for each incarnation of the material plane. The first world, second world, and third world. Our campaign takes place in the third world, and so every time a world dies or is destroyed, it becomes that next world. Additionally, I do want to know about the second world. It was revealed a few sessions ago that the second world is where our previous campaign took place. And I was very conflicted about just putting this into the timeline and having it described, because it wouldn't make sense for your characters to know any of this, right? It's almost like a bit of metagaming on your part to know all this history that happened in a previous world. But at the same time, I can't just deny you of knowing this information, especially since, well, you know the information. It might not be so fresh in your mind, obviously, but it's there nonetheless. So I'm going to leave it up to you. If you want to know about this, if you think it'll be helpful, if you're fine with metagaming a little bit, go ahead and watch, the whole history about the second world. I think that's more than fine. I'm okay with it. If you'd rather keep the integrity of your character's knowledge, or you just don't think you need a refresher, you can always just skip ahead, and I'll probably put a time thing somewhere up here, and you can deal with that. Alright, so let's get into the first world. You guys don't know anything about the first world. I don't think I have any notes on here that's significant. There was a first world, and then it was destroyed, and then there was the second world. Maybe you'll learn more about it. I don't know. I don't even know very much about the first world. Well, just a little bit, but whatever. Okay, second world. Once again, skip ahead if you don't care. So, the catalyst event for the second world is that there's this young woman named Mariel, and then she passes away due to some kind of magical sickness, and her son is left orphaned. And then her son, grown up, who you guys assume to be Morkos, he's now grown up, and he's watching over his 11 apprentices, and he's, talking about learning the secrets of life and death, and just trying to become the most powerful sorcerer that he can be. Eventually, through some recent visions that you guys have seen, he starts his crusade against life. He believes that the only way to conquer death is through undeath. And so what essentially happens is he just goes on this rampage and starts to, take over the world and classic evil wizard type stuff. And then he disappears through some mysterious means. But then 1,000 years later, these 4 individuals all came together, and they found the phylactery of Morkos, which still held a portion of his soul, kind of like a Horcrux. And they broke it open for some reason, barbarian reasons, I guess. And Morkos was freed, and then he started, his takeover of the world again. This time a lot more undead, and that was the first session of that previous campaign. So these 4 individuals, which were you guys, you all decide, hey, you know what? How about we join the villain? He's like really powerful, and so you became his 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And then eventually you realize, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So you betrayed him, and then you started your quest to defeat him, which was never accomplished. We just kind of got tired of the campaign, which is okay. I did too. So, but this is why I got the whole thingamajig. I brought Morkos back because I wasn't tired of him. I was tired of the campaign. And so basically, to justify the ending of the campaign, I just said, hey, how about the universe was just destroyed before you guys could defeat Morkos? And so that's what I did. So Tiamat appears, blows everything up, destroys everything. She actually fights with the giant of Volduger. If you were in that campaign, you know what I'm talking about. He's the super tall giant, and she beats the giant, obviously, and she just wipes out the material plane and Morkos along with it, kind of, which I'll get into in just a sec. And so, yeah, the second world is just completely eviscerated, and it is remolded into the third world. All right, so again, the age of the third world isn't really known. I don't even know it. And I mean, this is only one continent. There's probably other continents. I don't know. We'll see. Well, I guess we'll find out. But essentially, it's maybe 100,000 or more years old. But actual recorded history is really only a few centuries old. The important part about the beginning of the third world, though, is that Azuth, the god of magic, started to kind of reintroduce magic. There was no magic in this world for whatever reason, and he decided to just, give it a little bit of a nudge, and then that led to this whole the campaign. It led to the campaign. But the only problem was, by doing that, he reawakened Morkos, and it's very complicated. Essentially, Morkos was like in a sort of stasis because he was so powerful. Even Tiamat couldn't kill him, almost. But then, by bringing back magic, by Azuth bringing back magic, Morkos was able to kind of get that spark and like reignite. So about 1,000 or so years ago, magic slowly starts to develop, and then this misuse of magic leads to a lot of, magical items, magical people, magical creatures, elves, dwarves, grung, lizard folk, all those kind of guys. They were all just evolutions from magic. Some of these magical folk, though, were the beholders. And they're beholders. There was just a bunch of the beholders, and they just had the goal of taking over the world. But then eventually, magic and civilizations becoming more advanced, and it cultivated into different kingdoms and countries. Now, I haven't been as in depth about this part, about the politics. Oh, Jesus. Now, I haven't been as in depth about this part, about the politics and kind of the geography of stuff. But basically, all you really need to know is there were quite a few kingdoms up here, and there were a few different nations down here, and then this whole area, a lot of magical folk were kind of pushed out from the north, and they kind of settled around here, started their own kingdoms. But just know that there's a general area, and there's just typical civil unrest and political unrest, as goes with any massive land with intelligent life. On top of these civilizations, or I guess above these civilizations, was Oranos City. So what actually happened was leftovers of the Second World kind of coalesced into these structures and these chunks of land floating in the sky in the clouds. And this collection of magic from the Second World led to the creation of the Air Genasi. And so then all these people, the Air Genasi, decided to, they basically built a society and a culture around exploring all these leftovers of the Second World and seeking treasure. And it's very interesting, actually. Good on you. Know who you are, who made that up. Good on you. That's some cool idea that you gave me. So good job on that. So that's all around the same time. So then about 500 or so years ago, as civilization starts to become more advanced, and that comes with transportation, you start to get the islands of Adarip. And so people are sailing, trading back and forth, and obviously that's the perfect time for pirates to start showing up. And the reason that these are both called the Islands of Adarip, it's kind of a Greenland Iceland situation. Pirates kind of just named them both the same thing to confuse people so that no one really knew uh, where their exact location was, which is very smart, I think. Whoever came up with that was really smart. So this kind of led to the creation of an informal pirate government, and then you get the Pirate Queen, and she has been ruling the pirates to this day. So, and you guys might meet her soon, since depending on where we're at, you should be headed to the Eastern Islands next session, which is soon. And you better have watched this before then. You're watching this before the session, okay? I believe in you. Around 200 years ago, all of these countries just united into one big country. Essentially, there was just this big old nation that said, magic is evil. We should just get rid of magic. And also capitalism. They hated capitalism and they hated magic. Who knew that such an ideology could be exclusive of those two things? But whatever. And so this created the Order of Kulam. And they're just all, up in the north. And they conquered pretty much all of this land, save for the desert up here and, maybe these mountainous areas. Those were a little hard to get, which I'll kind of get into that a little later. And so after this first crusade, which is what they call it, you had almost like a Cold War type of situation between these whole nations. These guys were just very threatened by a big Order of Kulam. And then additionally, because of this whole First Crusade thing, a lot more magical people had to go way down south. And that's how you get more populated areas like Bogmire and Wanderhon and Falkirk, and then Zergioth's whole kingdom, which is right there, by the way, and I'll get into that as well. But so as the Holy Land is kind of doing its whole First Crusade, about 175 or so years ago, you got Archbishop Coelius, right? And this is before he was an archbishop. He was just a younger guy, and he was really strong. He quickly rose through the ranks, and towards the end of the Crusades, him and his entire battalion, they were all kind of holed up right around here. There was a crazy ongoing battle, and it was crazy, and he died, but he got brought back to life by his god, and that is how he reached, his immortal archbishop status. And so and he kind of stayed that way for a while. He just became very strong, very well known, very powerful. And so they decided to send him as kind of a diplomat to Amicia, which I'll get into that in a sec. So about 150 years ago now, after all these crazy crusades are going on, all these countries down here finally decided, okay, we're going to just unite. We got a common enemy up here. And so they decided we're going to be the Oedhaven Empire. And that's what you got right now. And they were the Oedhaven Empire is the counterbalance in the world to the Order of Kulam. It really tipped the scales in the geopolitical landscape. Which, by the way, this is all just made up stuff, and I'm just talking about geopolitics and wars and economics, about just something I made up. That's kind of cool, I think. Pretty awesome stuff right there. So 130 years ago, this island of Amicia was just discovered. And I say discovered because there were already native people living here. There were the Grung and the lizard folk already living here. There was a red dragonborn named Abaddon the Explorer, or known as Abaddon the Conqueror to the native peoples. And he showed up to Amicia, and he began to construct the city of Jazira right here. This is where he started building it. But there was just too much pushback from the Grong and the Lizard Folk, which obviously they did not like that. So what he did, he kind of scheduled a meeting with Pada and Terib. They were the two leaders of the Grong and the Lizard Folk. And he basically deceived them into fighting each other and betraying each other. And so that created a civil war between the Grong and the Lizard Folk. And while they were distracted with all that, Abaddon decided, you know what, I'm just going to build my new city here. It's a little safer spot and it's away from all this conflict. So that's exactly what he did. The ruins, however, are still right there, which you guys have been to, and you killed a dragon there, which is pretty cool. Taking advantage of that whole civil war, Jazeera became kind of its own, little micronation that just became immensely wealthy, immensely powerful. They were taking advantage of the civil war by taking the Skeeto stone from the Grungle, kidnapping slaves and whatnot, and just becoming super rich, trading with both the Order of Coolum and the Oathhaven Empire. And to this day, they are the wealthiest nation of this tiny little island. It has more wealth combined than all of up here and all of up here, or all of down here. That's a lot of money. A lot you can do with igniting a civil war and building off slaves. That's how America did it. And so as, more trade is increased and both the Order of Coolum and the Oathhaven Empire is advancing, especially in their military operations, this whole golden age of piracy of the islands just kind of slows. It just grinds to a halt. Up until then, pirates were always raiding these coastal cities and interrupting trade routes. But as this war is just slowly building up and escalating, it just became harder and harder for these pirates to keep up their jobs. And so it slows to a halt. I mean, they still got the occasional, pillaging, just not near as much as they could have. Okay, now it's probably for like the single most important event in the entire history of Riflehaven. So King Zergioth, right here, he sent all of his court wizards over this way far out into the ocean, and just on this expedition to find magical secrets. And, King Zergioth, he was a little afraid of this whole escalating conflict, and he wanted to make sure, I gotta have something to protect myself in case, there's a whole war that breaks off in my land. So they went all the way out into the west, and they found Obsidian Island, which you guys know is just this remnant of the Second World. It is the contact point of Tiamat. There's just this massive crater. That is where Tiamat showed up. There is ruins of Morkosa's castles and all these different ruined cities. There's just charred, burnt corpses everywhere. It's eternally night. It is just a nasty place. But because it's a remnant of the Second World, what they find is a lot of pretty well-preserved notes, books, tomes, scrolls, and they use this magical knowledge, they bring it all the way back here, and they use that to construct the Master Wand, which essentially is just this super powerful wand that can harness this godlike ability. They can't really figure out how exactly to use it. Additionally, though, what they do find is way back on Obsidian Island, there's just like this perfectly preserved body. And so they take the brain out of it, they bring it back to life, and they use that to help them with their studies, because it's just the brain of a wizard from a previous world that has all these magical secrets. Even though he doesn't remember it very well, after all, he went through the destruction of an entire world. But, it's important information nonetheless to help create godlike abilities. The thing is, though, that the discovery of Obsidian Island, all the notes, everything, it's all a lot of really good coincidences, right? A lot of it is almost too good to be true, and that's for a reason. You see, this whole time, Azuth has just been slowly working in the background, just slightly tipping probabilities in an unnoticeable way, so that everything can converge together in the right way, so that Zergioth and all the wizards, or anyone, just anyone, could discover the Master Wand. And the reason he wants people to discover the Master Wand is so that they can use it to defeat Morkos. Because once again, Morkos is growing in power. He's not a threat yet, but of course, Azuth knows this and wants to prepare for any threat. Oh yeah, and then Mungo, the shopkeeper in Bogmire, he was one of the wizards. He was actually like the Grandmaster Wizard, which is pretty cool. And then after this, he retired and moved to Bogmire and started a little magic shop. So good on you, Mungo. Now that Zergioth has this Master Wand, about 100 years ago, they're going, maybe the Oathhaven Empire would be a really good ally. They're just, they don't want to murder magic. They don't want to, take away our private property. I think we'll side with this empire. This obviously freaks out the really freaks out the Order of Kulam, and so they just decide to invade and just annihilate King Zergioth. Zergioth, this whole kingdom right here is incredibly small, especially compared to the sheer might of the Order of Kulan. Right? This is like I don't even know what to. A coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb right here. Luckily, Oathhaven Empire just decides to saunter on up and kind of just defend uh, Mr. Zergioth and his kingdom. So this is kind of just the spark that ignites the Great War, which has been ongoing for this whole, 100 years. And it is intense. There is an insane battle, and Zergioth's kingdom is reduced to ashes, essentially. The battle is so cataclysmic that there is nothing left but some ruins, right? And all these other towns, they kind of just are now isolated. They don't have the support of Zergioth ruins, and so they kind of fall into some hardship. But they're able to, stick their way out in the Badlands. What does suck though is during the battle, all of the notes and everything about the construction of the Master Wand during the battle were either destroyed or they were taken by the Order of Kulam. Luckily, though, the Oathhaven Empire does, take the wand before it can get into the hands of the Order of Kulam, and they just scurry their way back and they give it to King Oathhaven. And of course, like anyone who is just thrust into the biggest war in history, decides, hey, I'm gonna try and use this thing, and he almost dies. It like shatters every bone in his body. So he goes, we're just gonna seal this away and just research it for until we figure out how to use this, because I do not want to have to show up to battle with these guys and embarrass myself with a wand that blows up half my troops. So now this whole stage is set for the Great War. Like I said, all these towns are now independent. Zergioth's kingdom is in ruins, and trade is just amplifying between Amicia and the Order and the Empire. And even the pirates are kind of getting into it. A lot of them are being hired mercenaries to interrupt trade routes. But then you have the whole Tiamat thing, right? So Tiamat, she was the one that destroyed the second world, and she goes, you know what? I kind of want to destroy this world too. I like doing that. It's my job. It's the one thing I'm good at. Let's do that. And so she chooses 5 individuals all around the world, and she basically gives them this idea, promises them power. She lures them in and says, hey, if you help me commit horrible atrocities and a bunch of human sacrifices, we can destroy the world and make a new one that's even better, and you guys will be the kings of it. And they all go, heck yeah, I want to do that. So here's all the different individuals that I think are important. First, you have Vilmac up here in Jazira. He is the son of Abaddon, King Abaddon, and he gets this vision. He sees the whole previous second world, and he goes, yep, I agree with you, Tiamat. And he escapes, and he goes up here, and then he starts tricking all of the lizard folks to start ritually sacrificing themselves in the mountains, and just using that. He's just tricking them. He's doing a good job at it too. Like, just 100 years, every once in a while, he just gets a whole bunch of sacrifices. The crops are bad. Sweet, I get a bunch of sacrifices to Tiamat. Lucky guy, that Vilmac. Then you have Encalagon, and he's just chilling down here in Falkirk, down in the sub-levels of the mines. He's recruiting people to his cult and just silently picking off one by one all these people. And then the more interesting one, I think, is Eladio. He was here in the desert. But Eladio goes, he thinks of the whole Tiamat thing as more of like a religion, and he's not necessarily acting towards the whole destruction of the world, but he goes, it is a cycle. It's a part of nature. It's like a hurricane. It's gonna happen. So what he does, he starts this religion, and whenever people are sick or old or they're about to die, he just kind of puts them on his little sacrificial altar, and then they pass away, and that technically counts as a sacrifice for him. So again, I feel like that's an even better way than Vilmac. He's got it. He's got it down. He knows what he's doing. And then there's two more Dragonborn. You know that one of them is on one of these islands. You have no clue where the other one is. Actually, that's a lie. You do know where he is. I do have a map, and it has all the different locations marked of where each of the Dragonborn are. I think the other one is somewhere around here. I don't want to get up and grab the map. You guys have the maps. I'll show it to you next session. You can just look. But the next important thing is each of these 5 Dragonborn each get a Dragonstone. It all corresponds to their color. So, Encalagon gets the black one, Eladio gets the blue one, Vilmac gets the white one, and so on, right? And once all of these sacrifices are made, once enough sacrifices are made, all the Dragonstones can come together and be able to summon Tiamat. And you guys have been collecting them like Pokemon. I sure hope you guys don't accidentally summon Tiamat. That would be a shame. As all of this is happening, this war is escalating. There is the Battle of Breakfast Bridge. So there's this big old bridge over the river, and all these Oathhaven soldiers were just camping out, chilling, having their breakfast, and then they get ambushed by the Order of Coulomb. And it was such a massacre that everyone in the area goes, that's Breakfast Bridge. That is the bridge where a bunch of people died eating their breakfast. And that's some good naming right there. I don't blame them. Okay, so now about 90 years ago, Jazeera and the Order of Coulomb, they're getting a lot more of an alliance, right? Because the Order of Coulomb is technically like a purely communist nation, they don't need money. They just rely on slave labor, and they rely on, it's mostly slave labor, but also, just religious, build this wall for your god. And it kind of works, which is kind of cool. But since they don't really have, they don't need money, I mean, they're they just trade things. And so Mysia can just kind of hang on to all their gold. And these guys don't need gold for anything. So they build a much stronger alliance. And also, you have Archbishop Coleus coming over, and he's like, hey, I'll offer you protection. I'm like one of the most powerful beings alive right now. I'll keep you safe from anything from down here or over here, or in that nasty jungle where there's dinosaurs and giant snakes. And Jazeera goes, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a great deal. You're hired. And so it's more of an alliance. Jazeera isn't a part of, they're not in the war. There's no active combat from the soldiers of Jazeera. There is nothing like that. There's no taxes. There's nothing like that. They are just their own nation, but they just have a really good relationship with these guys. They're trading protection from the pirates and the Empire for slaves and resources and all sorts of stuff, which is a fair deal. But so this whole time, there's just been this crazy war, tons of battles going on, horrible, horrible, horrible for anyone living in these territories. Absolutely nasty. They're getting caught in the crossfire. But unfortunately, as this battle is going on, as this war is going on, it kind of just slowly grinds into a stalemate. And, the battles are less frequent, and when they do happen, they're less brutal. And so these guys are, they're able to build more of a solid ground for civilization and society, which, is good. It's nice building, it's a good place to live when it's not a war zone. However, about 85 years ago, because of the reduction of battle and also just policing from both the Order and the Empire, there's a lot more lawlessness. You have the Selvaxi marauders start to pop up, just raiding these towns, which are basically just land pirates. They use giants, they use all sorts of magical creatures, and they're just wreaking havoc. 80 years ago, we're actually going to step away from this map and we're going to go up into the sky into Arano City. There was this Air Genasi band of adventurers, and they were led by the wizard named Diomedes, who you guys have met, and then the warrior Epimetheus, who you guys have also met. Not as much, though. And they just go off and they just kill all the beholders. They wipe out every beholder in Orano City. They do a damn good job of it. But there is one who's being real nasty, and that's Kornelak, which you guys have also met. Kornelak, they just cannot kill Kornelak. He's like the Thanos of beholders. So what they do, they just imprison him. They trap his soul into a little amulet, which they then guard with this big, elaborate dungeon with all these traps and monsters. And then they take his body and they turn it to stone and they stick it right here in the ruins of Xurgioth, where no one is going to go, because, I mean, it's a big dead castle. Who would go there? You guys went there. You guys couldn't wait to get there, which is crazy. So yeah, Diomedes and Epimetheus and all those Air Genasi, they go, all right, we take his soul and his body's right here, and we're just going to guard that with our life, and we're just going to keep on going. This will never have any problems or repercussions ever. It's going to go smoothly. He is trapped there forever. There is no possible way that he can ever escape. Okay, so about 50 years ago, Toltec, which is here in the Harthar Desert, goes, you know, I am really not liking this craziness that is going on with the Selvaxi Marauders. I'm joining the Order of Kulan. At this point in the campaign, they're still pretty new to the Order. In fact, they are the second newest piece of land to join the Order of Kulan. And so they're not fully communist yet. They're not fully religiously integrated. You know, Eladio is still able to practice his whole Tiamat religion. But it's nice for them. They get protection, and, you know, they just got to trade it for free healthcare. They just get protection and free healthcare and free housing and free education. Pretty bad education, if you ask me. I mean, I wouldn't want a bunch of education from people who are committing religious genocide, but you know, no more marauders, I guess. But magic is still pretty banned. Pretty big no-no there. 40 years ago now, you have Captain McCracken, the greatest pirate to ever sail the body of water surrounding Riflehaven. Captain McCracken is just this horrible, evil, mean hobgoblin that just gets up a big gang of goblins and orcs, and he goes, you know what, we need to bring piracy back to its glory days. And he just maul it. Like, there, he has seen things, he has destroyed things that no one could destroy previously. He is pillaging, he is plundering, he is looting. He is the pirate. He is like Blackbeard and Davy Jones, and he is the mega pirate. Now, granted, it's mostly because he has a mimic boat that eats other boats. I feel like anyone could probably, you know, plunder the sea if they had that asset with them. But still, pretty impressive on McCracken's part. I was considering this. I remember at the beginning of the campaign, there was a little bit of a lore drop that for like thousands of years, there's been like a goblin war between hobgoblins and goblins, just like all happening, just has always been happening. And it's like, its politics are so confusing and so complicated that no one can keep track of who's fighting for what. I think we touched on that for like one session, because you guys met a hobgoblin or something. He told you about that. And we've never touched on that. We've never brought that up back again, which I think is even more funny. In my headcanon, this is still going on. Anytime you see a goblin, they are, you know, decorated war veterans that you just are, they're still just goblins though. So in my headcanon now, actually it's not my headcanon, it's canon. I'm the DM, I can do that. maybe Captain McCracken is just a really he used to be a really good general during the Great Gob War, and he goes, I'm really good at killing goblins. Maybe I can do that for everywhere, and he does. So I don't know. I need to bring back more lore on the Great Goblin War because it's interesting. It's kind of funny too. 10 years ago now, deep into the Grungle, things have been pretty stagnant for quite a few years. The lizard folk and the Grung are now just completely separated. The lizard folk live out here, and the Grungle live all in here. So there's this one Grung that is just fed up with, being taken advantage of by everyone in Jazeera, and he decides, we are gonna rule with an iron fist. We're gonna make the Grungle great again, and we are gonna take back Amicia, just like the good old days. And people believed it. Just typical fear mongering with the lizard folk. Oh yeah, the lizard folk make your problems even worse, and we're gonna keep them out of the Grungle, and we're gonna do so amazing. And people just fed up. They were looking for a scapegoat, and they found a scapegoat, and they found a charismatic leader, even though he was horrible and terrible and not a great guy. I think if you can't tell yet, you can tell who I based this guy off of. The only issue, though, is that he did enslave a lot of his people. He did take advantage of, all these slaves, all the slave stuff from Jazeera here. He goes, yeah, how about I just give them slaves instead of having them kidnap them, and then we can just trade stuff. Because he likes money. He likes magic items. So that's what he does. Okay. 5 years ago now, mysteriously, from some random place, some random occurrence, undead attack Falkirk. They come from out of nowhere, and they just demolish stuff. This is the first sighting of undead ever in this recorded history. Not in the second world, obviously. I know. In the third world, there's never been a zombie or anything, and they obliterate the surface level of Falkirk. And so everyone in Falkirk just goes down below in the mines, and they stay there for a long time. I mean, I guess 5 years is not that long in the context of this entire timeline. But still, 5 years in a cave is a long time, I think. But yeah, so there's just this crazy undead. They show up, they destroy stuff, and then they leave. They disappear. This is, of course, the doing of Morkos. And this is to the point where Azuth goes, okay, I kind of need to lock in. That wand is just here, just locked away somewhere, and Morkos already has undead attacking Riflehaven. It's going to escalate even further. I got to do something to stop it. And which I'll get into what he does to help stop it in just a sec. But more importantly, very more importantly, right back up here in the Grungle, there's a prophecy passed down from generation to generation, just 5 years ago. So for Grung time, that's 3 generations ago. There's a prophecy that there would be a Grung so brave and so strong that he would overthrow Proximus's terrible rule and reunite the Grung and the lizard folk. And that Grung would be known as the Riveting One. It was also said that the Riveting One would be a descendant of Pada himself. So, which, I mean, they're frogs. I feel like they're kind of all descendants of Pada. I don't really know how frog reproduction works. I'm not going to look that up, but I feel like most people are probably descendants of Pada. I mean, he was the frog guy, I don't know, 100 or so years ago. So, they're probably us. The Riveting One could be anyone. But we all know who the Riveting One really is. Yes, you. You know who you are. You are the Riveting One. You freed those people. Actually, I'm getting ahead myself. We'll get to that in the whole campaign recap. Okay, we're getting into the end now. This is the months, weeks, and days leading up to the beginning of the campaign, which started here, in this general area. So Azuth is going, Morkos is getting in power. I kind of helped humanity find the Master Wand and create the Master Wand to defeat Morkos, and they're not doing anything with it. So he does what he does, and he just kind of, manipulates probability slowly here and there, almost unnoticeable. And the higher-ups of the Oedhaven Empire go, okay, here's what we're going to do. We know how to use it. We're going to take this wand, and we're going to take it all the way up to the front lines here to War Mage Lydia. She's like the main general. And she's going to use that, and we're just going to keep on going. This is the battle, guys. This is the one. We're going to just demolish the order. We're going to end this 100-year war. And so they take the wand, and they go all the way up here, and they start taking it through, and then they get ambushed by marauders. Turns out that by kind of neglecting this entire land for a century, it comes to bite you in the ass later on. But they did find it again eventually, due to some time travel shenanigans, which I will get into later. And they get it back, but oh no, the Order of Coulomb is here, and the Marauders are back. So this causes the Battle of Landstrad Fields, and it is the single biggest battle of entire recorded history, even bigger than the Battle of Zuryat. It is so destructive. It is so terrible. So many people die, and is where the campaign begins, is where you guys find yourself smack dab in the middle of, and you guys get the hell out of there, which is a good idea, I think. Now, to be honest, if you stuck around, you probably would have caused more damage than anyone else, which, I mean, even at level 1, you would have done it. You would have, I feel like if I gave you guys enough time, you guys could just take over the world. I'm not giving you ideas, but like, holy hell, you guys are strong. Alright, well, it looks like that is the whole timeline for you. There you go. Hopefully that's interesting and it kind of refreshes your mind. It's all very familiar information. It'll be easy to kind of remember. I sure hope so, though. My biggest fear is that I just made it more confusing. But hopefully with my elegantly drawn visual aid, it is much more helpful. And then, of course, if you're still confused, I mean, I got this whole document over here. One of you even has it, so you can still just read that. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was refreshing. Also, if you're like in the last video where you're watching this and you're not for the 4 people I made this for, welcome back. Hope maybe this is more context. Maybe this is more well made. We'll see. It's honestly probably more confusing, not gonna lie, but you got it. It's not for you. It doesn't have to make sense for you. You don't have any context. Alright, so I instruct you now, after you watch this one, go ahead and watch the campaign recap, and then after that you should be all ready for our session. Make sure before our next session you have everything you need. You have all the XP that you need. I always forget to give you guys XP. I'm so bad at that, which is weird. You guys, you're supposed to be the classic D&D player where you go, oh, do we level up? Do we level up? You gotta remind me more. I need to be better at that too, but you guys gotta be better too. Alright, now don't waste any time and just go watch the recap video. You're gonna forget it. I know you will. You know who you are. You're gonna forget. You're gonna procrastinate it, and then you're gonna show up to the next session, and then you go, can someone recap the last few sessions? Because you didn't watch the video. You need to watch the video. It'll help you out. I swear to God.